Good morning, Donda. 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 Good morning. Good morning, Donda. Good morning, Donda. Good morning, Donda.
Kanye West is both a profoundly unique and profoundly controversial person. This is me trying to put it nicely so that I don't scare away Kanye West fans within the first 5 seconds of the video. Instead, I figured I would dress like him to really put everybody at ease, and also overheat because I am wearing so much denim right now. In the past few years, Kanye West has decided that anti-Semitism and racism are a better brand for him than being, I don't know, one of arguably the greatest musicians of all time. He had that and then thought, why don't I let everybody know what I think about World War II? And while he was going on about white lives mattering and talking about his favorite Austrian painter turned genocidal maniac, something else was happening too. He was also running a school. And to be honest with you, if there is one person who absolutely should not under any circumstances be running a school, it's Willy Wonka, the villain from Matilda, and Kanye freaking West. He's being sued by multiple former employees of his school, including one in the past few days that has some of the most serious allegations yet. And we're going to get into those allegations, obviously, because they're hilarious, but to really understand the proper context, we're going to need to dive a little deeper. In 2020, Kanye West established Yeezy Christian Academy, because if there's one thing a good Christian family would do, it's send their children to an unaccredited Christian private school run by a rapper.
If you want to reach those kids on the street, then you gotta do a rap to a hip-hop beat.
Actually, wait. Maybe that is something that Christians do. He would rebrand twice, first to Donda Academy and then to Donda Academy, in the midst of serious lawsuits and numerous scandals. And as I mentioned earlier, just this week we have another person suing him, one of his former employees, joining the 4 other of his former employees who are already suing him. And we're going to talk about those new allegations, obviously, but before we do that, I feel like I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you the full story. It's a story of Kanye West trying to establish a school, and failing because he is both unqualified and a little bit unhinged. This is the story of Ye's Donda Academy. Did you like how NPR I got there? So Kanye West, who now goes by Ye, which I will not be using because a name requires at least 3 letters, has a rather complicated history in the media spotlight. I think the best way to describe Kanye is a contrarian, because he kind of just wants to go against people, against what is popular. The first real instance of this was in 2005, when he on live television said that George Bush doesn't care about black people in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. And he was half right. George Bush doesn't really care about anybody that can't give him oil or that he doesn't play golf with. He then went on to support both of Obama's runs for president before immediately getting on board the Trump train and saying that slavery was a choice, but then also saying that if he was elected president, his policies would be a combination of Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. And in case you forgot, Kanye West ran for president, which, you know, after all, is a very sane and level-headed thing to do. He didn't run for the Democratic or the Republican Party, instead opting for the birthday party, and he got 7th place in the 2020 election. In 2022, Kanye decided that he was going to try again and run for president in 2024, and he, you know, wanted to announce this by going on a bunch of conservative-leaning podcasts. Although with how controversial his comments ended up being, he could have gone on any podcast. He could have guest starred on Office Ladies, and if he'd been talking up Adolf Hitler, things would not have gone well for him either way. And in these podcasts, Kanye went out of his way to say a bunch of anti-Semitic comments and praise the Führer, as well as posting a variety of other controversial comments across his social media, particularly ones that were just very anti-Semitic, and it was not a good look at all. In response to his incredibly offensive comments, he was removed from social media sites, lost bookings, lost sponsorships, lost brand deals. Things were not going super well. And all the while, Kanye West was reaching levels of divorced dad previously thought to be impossible by threatening to kill Pete Davidson, who his ex-wife, Kim Kardashian, was seeing at the time, as well as living inside a stadium. And while all of this absolutely wild shit was happening, something else was happening too. Kanye West was still running a school. Because if there's one thing a man in the middle of a complete breakdown whose life is falling apart should be doing, it's educating 100 young and impressionable children. Kanye would start Yeezy Christian Academy in 2020 before moving on the next year in 2021 to Donda Academy, but his first attempt didn't go super well, as we introduce the first of 5 people currently suing Kanye West and his organization. Isaiah Meadows, who was the assistant principal for Yeezy Christian Academy. And I thought my LinkedIn was completely screwed. I feel really bad for this guy. I mean, do you list that? Or do you just like, yeah, I was just chilling, I was on vacation, I was between jobs? Or do you say proudly, I was the assistant principal for Yeezy Christian Academy? He claims he was demoted and then fired because he reported safety violations at both campuses, which I will now list in the service of comedy. Yeezy Christian Academy had no electricity, so classes were conducted with industrial generators powering floodlights, which is a great learning environment, and it also had a septic tank which would regularly overflow. These 2 traits would also initially be passed on to Donda Academy in those first few months when they transferred campuses. Imagine you're at math club and frankly you're already a little embarrassed to even be at math club, and then the toilet suddenly explodes. You're already a little embarrassed, but that embarrassment is doubly multiplied by the fecal explosion. See, a little math pun there? But Yeezy Christian had other things going for it, like exposed electrical wires that would occasionally start fires, which is a fun little nursery rhyme you can learn as your school burns to the ground. Exposed wires that start fires. See, it's kinda catchy. I kind of see the vision, Kanye. The school also boasted a skylight, but without glass, because Kanye was reportedly afraid of glass. And I hate to break it to you, but a skylight without glass ceases to be a skylight. At that point, it is just a hole in your fucking roof. Eventually, though, Kanye would move on from Yeezy Christian and go to his second school in Donda Academy. Meadows, the person suing, was kept on, but he was demoted to an assistant gym teacher. Now, this is just a piece of advice for anyone out there, particularly in education. If you go from assistant principal to assistant gym teacher, something has gone horribly wrong. Named after his late mother, Donda Academy claimed to be a new entrant into the arena of private elite preparatory schools, but it had to compete with, you know, actual elite private preparatory schools. And basically the only thing that Donda had going for it, at least initially, was Kanye West's name and involvement. For the low price of $15,000 a year, you too could send your kids to the new destination for the offspring of the rich and famous, Donda Academy. Students were only allowed to wear black, that was the uniform, provided they didn't wear Adidas or Nike. And they also weren't allowed to have any sort of colorings or colored pencils or draw or put anything colorful on the walls. And this, my friends, is what is called the first red flag of many red flags of the Soviet Union of red flags of Donda Academy. Running a K-12 school and not having any decorations or letting kids draw or put their things up on the walls is crazy. It's crazy. And unlike any of those other existing elite preparatory schools, Donda Academy was really vague. It was vague in what the curriculum was, it was vague on detailing who most of its teachers were, it only had a very surface level thing instead of any detailed lesson plans or curriculum designs. Their website, which is now deleted, said this: students would participate in, quote, full school worship, core classes of language arts, math and science, lunch and recess, enrichment courses including world language, visual art, film, choir, and parkour. And I know one of those classes seems completely ridiculous. Like, who would ever teach a kid about film? I mean, that's just stupid. But the one that really made rounds on the internet is the fact that the school was teaching parkour. And I'm sure the mental image of Kanye West teaching parkour makes a lot of sense to you. Because to me, it feels like Kanye is intrinsically the type of person who would have enjoyed Naruto running across the playground during recess. Their rationale for including it in their curriculum was that it gives kids an opportunity to be active without having to be competitive, which is kind of a lie, because really in parkour everybody is competing, except you're just competing to see who can make a fool out of themselves the least. Who can come off looking the least dumb. Because really, there's nothing cool about looking like you're in the Darude Sandstorm music video. Okay, maybe they're a little cool. And the fact that the curriculum is designed this way is kind of funny to me, because the first and probably the most impactful thing that Kanye West did to build legitimacy for Donda Academy was by bringing in a ton of highly ranked high school prospects for basketball. Kanye enlisted numerous players from the actual NBA to come by the school, give the kids pointers. Some of their kids actually ended up going to Donda, albeit briefly, and you'll see why very shortly. But Kanye West actually did personally DM very talented high school recruits and get them to transfer to Donda Academy. And this is going to be one of the themes we're going to see throughout the entire video, is that Kanye West just puts his name on something and he can get something done. If I want to start a fake Christian school, I have to put in the work. I can't just DM famous people's children and they'll come to my fake school. I have to hit the ground running. I gotta do my scam the hard way. But Kanye, just a couple DMs from the Kanye account, and it's very convincing. A lot of these teachers who would later end up suing them reported that that was initially why they abandoned their safer and more conventional jobs to come to Donda Academy, was because they wanted to work with Kanye West and respected him as a musical artist. But in order to increase the legitimacy of his school, Kanye West needed sports, because if there's one thing Americans will respect, it is sports. And besides the Kanye West name, that was really all he had to offer, because Donda Academy was not accredited. And a school being accredited is typically a warning for parents who care about the well-being of their children that, hey, maybe we shouldn't send you here. Because being accredited is very easy, provided you are an actual educational facility. The government is there to verify the most basic bare-bones necessities of a school, such as, have your teachers been trained to teach kids? Does your curriculum teach kids, and do you actually teach kids in a real way? And does your school teach parkour? Although, actually, that last one was a lie, because if it had been true, then Donda would have been accredited easily. But attending a school that is not accredited means that potential colleges are not going to necessarily accept your credits and accept that you've been given a high school education, because they have no way of knowing and verifying if you've been to an actual school, or if you've been to a rapper's vanity project where you ate sushi off the floors. And Donda Academy was the latter. Donda Academy and its sports program began in earnest from the 2021 to 2022 school year, and it's located in Los Angeles in the Simi Valley, relatively affluent part of the city. They had an enrollment of about 100, with again a tuition at 15 grand. For the privilege of Donda Academy. And that may seem like a lot to you, but being under the tutelage of the man who wrote The Life of Pablo, that's priceless. And this is where things really start to unravel, because there are a lot of elements of Donda Academy that aren't necessarily bad, but are just bizarre. One being their lunch, which I've mentioned. Students were not allowed to bring in any outside food for lunch, or really for anything, and instead, every single day, they had to eat sushi. Now, eating raw fish once in a while seems like a delicacy, but eating raw fish every day seems like you're on a fishing boat that's been stranded in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And while Donda Academy didn't provide the salt water to drink and the dead albatross, you understand what they were going for. That joke's not gonna land, is it? It was well known that Kanye West spent $10,000 a week on all of the sushi for the kids, which goes to show you that they don't really teach math that well at Donda Academy, and this would be particularly insulting because two of the people who were suing Kanye were former teachers, Cecilia Haley and Sha'Carri Byers, and they're both claiming that one of the main reasons they're suing him is because their paychecks were late and were under. Their paychecks were routinely short $1,800 to $2,700, meanwhile your boss is spending $10,000 a week just on sushi. And look, I've been underpaid by employers before, but at least I didn't have to see my paycheck literally and figuratively represented by a bunch of sushi on the ground. Because yes, Donda Academy did not have any chairs, and it did not have any tables. So every day, the students were forced to eat that sushi on the ground. Okay? Does that make sense? No. But Kanye West did not want tables, and he did not want chairs in his precious Donda Academy. So there were no chairs, and there were no tables. That's just how it works. It's very bizarre. You're just going to have to move past it. We've got a lot more to get into. Haley had 25 years of experience in education and was the dean of 2 colleges prior to coming to Donda Academy. So of course, she needed to be fired after she reported numerous health and safety concerns. She was probably a little bit weirded out working in a school run by Kanye West where they've banned chairs, which doesn't sound like a real thing that's being alleged to be true in a court of law. It instead sounds like a surreal dream you're describing to somebody who doesn't really care and doesn't can't even begin to interpret what that dream might mean. I was dreaming that I was working at this school run by Kanye West, but there weren't any chairs. I mean, we had cushions, but there were no chairs. And we had to eat sushi off the floor. There was also, and this may shock you, a severe problem with bullying throughout Donda Academy because the kids were not properly disciplined. One student allegedly continually slapped people and even threatened to slap a teacher, but was never punished in any meaningful sense. But I don't know what they were bullying the other students over, because I feel like the easiest thing to bully a Donda Academy student would be, haha, you go to an unaccredited Christian private school run by Kanye West where you're not getting an education, but obviously those in glass houses can't throw stones. They would be opening themselves up to that same bullying. So I don't even know what they were dealing with there. There were also more pressing matters, like the fact that there were exposed electrical wires. I sound like a broken record about school safety. I'm such a stickler for the rules, right? But there also weren't any janitors and there wasn't a school nurse, which is not particularly safe. One student's EpiPen was reportedly kept on top of the microwave, which, you know, I mean, one of my friends does that, but the difference there is that they are a 20-something dysfunctional functional adult, and this is a school where ideally you want to take care of these children. The fact that there were no janitors, I mean, this place must have fucking reeked. Imagine the smell of raw fish and adolescents going through puberty all day, every day. That's like probably worse than mustard gas. It sounds hellish. And speaking of hellish, the school was locked from the outside every day. Now, I know it's kind of a cliche for students who are going to school who don't like it, be like, oh, this is a prison. But even then, the door is usually not locked. It is not literally a prison locked from the outside. But in the case of Donda Academy, you can daydream out the window and realize that you literally are in a prison. And when it came to recess, naturally it was indoor only, because, you know, the door was locked. Because that's a great idea, right? Running a school with a bunch of young kids and never letting them outside to run around and release their energy. No, especially given the fact that this is in Los Angeles, one of the only places in America where the weather isn't completely depressing or completely humid and disgusting for half the year. Additionally, there were no classes or anything on the second floor because Kanye West was reportedly afraid of stairs, which seems more like a fear for a senior citizen who's had a couple falls and broken their hip than a rapper trying to run a school. Although I can imagine the demands of an eccentric musician might overlap more with an elderly person suffering from dementia than we might think.
Hey, there can't be no glass in that skylight. I don't like glass. I don't like glass. Give me some sushi, but I don't need no fancy tables or nothing. Just throw it on the floor. Stairs? Are you crazy? I'm not going up no damn stairs.
It's so stupid. And in addition to Meadows, Byers, and Haley, a fourth employee is also suing him, an employee by the name of Tamani Meeks. Meeks did not work at Donda that long. She is kind of the Augustus Gloop of this very doomed enterprise. Now, Meeks saw kind of the same thing as everybody else had seen. Rampant bullying, loose electrical wires, overflowing septic tanks, and she was told that they were just working on the kinks, and that the school was, quote, a work in progress. Why don't you say it a little louder so the kids can hear, right? Hey, little Timmy, the school that your parents are currently paying $15,000 for you to attend that may catch on fire at any moment and smells like feces, it's all right, though, because it's just a work in progress. You are actively educating kids there. You can't say it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress if it's an empty building. You have students. Oh. Her class, despite the fact that she was teaching math, didn't have any textbooks or workbooks or, quote, any sort of educational items that would typically be found in a classroom. They were eventually given worksheets that had been printed off of an online resource, but not before Meeks was reprimanded for having the audacity to ask for something as crazy as worksheets to teach math. And you know what? Hot take here. I'm actually with the fine folks of Donda Academy for this one. I mean, come on. First she asks for worksheets. I mean, what's next? Chairs? A playground? Working electricity? She is entitled. Shortly after this happened, she was fired and not given a reason, hence the lawsuit. And this takes us to one of the real turning points of Donda Academy, October 27th, 2022. Kanye had recently been banned from social media, he was appearing on podcasts and making openly anti-Semitic comments, and a neo-Nazi group was protesting in favor of Kanye West. So that's probably a time you should do some introspection, in my opinion, anyway. And all of the blowback of all of these scandals was finally starting to affect Donda Academy. And Donda would feel the consequences of this for half a day. On October 22nd, all parents of Donda students are emailed that, hey, class is canceled forever until the next year. The 2022 to 2023 school year canceled, but 2023 to 2024, that's still on. Which is a crazy thing to email somebody like 2 months into the school year. They're very clear about it in the email, in all caps, there will be no school tomorrow. But then, not even half a day later, parents receive another email at midnight from Donda Academy. The email says that Donda will be, quote, returning with a vengeance, and that they can't wait to see everybody bright and early tomorrow. You know, I really feel bad for the kids of Donda Academy, not just because they got an education at Donda Academy, but for this. Because they go to bed thinking, alright, not only do I have a snow day, I have a snow year. School is canceled forever. Then they're woken up at 6:30 by their parents saying, actually, school is back on and it is not canceled. So put your backpack on and get off to school. I'd say grab your lunch, but you'll be eating sushi. I think for fun in that second email they should have added, there will be school tomorrow in all caps, just for emphasis. And at this point, according to my research, Donda Academy pretty much goes off the face of the earth. Until in 2023, these lawsuits all come to light and we see more details, which are the things that I've told you about. But at this point in time, 2022, Donda Academy is just trying to function away from the public spotlight and eye, even as Kanye West becomes increasingly more unhinged. And this brings us to our final, for now, person who is suing Kanye West and Donda, Trevor Phillips. Not to be confused with the GTA 5 protagonist, Trevor Phillips. He began his employment in November 22, just after Donda had girl-bossed a little too close to the sun, and he worked there for about 9 months. And he had initially been hired to work with Kanye's fashion brand, Yeezy, and then somehow ends up working for his school. And again, I have to bring this up, just in case anyone out there is new to the workforce. If you are hired to work on a fashion brand and you end up at a private Christian unaccredited school, something has gone terribly wrong. Phillips was on call 24/7 and was promised to be making $100 an hour. In reality, he was paid far less than that, which is shocking to precisely no one, given that that seems to be kind of a standard for Kanye. Really, the only thing he wants to spend money on is that fucking sushi. And here is where things take a turn for the racist and then the absurd. Phillips alleges that Kanye would discuss multiple offensive and controversial and inappropriate things in casual workplace conversation, such as the fact that Kanye only would date white women, or the fact that he would deny the Holocaust. That didn't happen, according to Kanye, or the fact that he loved Hitler. And oh my god, in doing research for this story and just being a member of society, I have not seen somebody praise Hitler as much as Kanye praises Hitler since Benito fucking Mussolini. And Benito Mussolini, and this will be the one time in my life I will praise Benito Mussolini, the one time I'll give him credit, is that he, in his private diary, said that Hitler was a weird little guy and would talk about ghosts and spirits and things. And Mussolini, well, he did also make the trains run on time. But getting into the racism components in this lawsuit, Phillips claims that Kanye would routinely yell at black employees, but he would never so much as raise his voice to white employees. And alleging a pattern of racial discrimination is not new in these lawsuits. Both Haley and Byers say that they were treated poorly on account of their race while working at Donda Academy as well, often routinely called things like aggressive and treated poorly despite the fact that they were among the only black women who were there as part of the teaching staff. Kanye, in other ways, was a horrible boss and an even worse person to be in any sort of school environment. He bragged about taking $2 million from the school's budget to go on an expensive and lavish trip to Paris. I feel like that probably didn't come out of the sushi budget, though. I feel like Kanye didn't touch that part of the budget. He also went up to 2 children and threatened to shave their heads and lock them in a cage. And hey, Kanye, look at me, look at me, look at me. It is never appropriate to talk to a student as if they were Fontaine and Les Miserables. They don't deserve that. His conduct with other employees, particularly with Phillips, was not any better either. In late 2022, he invited Phillips to a hotel where they had a long dinner. Again, he talked about how much he didn't really care for gay people, but he did care for Hitler, a very favorite combo for Kanye. But then he took Phillips up to his hotel room where they watched the 2022 Batman movie on mute in total silence. Kanye, don't be talking about how much you hate gay people, because Robert Pattinson in that movie, a gay icon. He's a gay icon in every movie, but he was in that movie. So you cannot be watching Batman and then be hating on gays. He then, while in this hotel room, pretended to masturbate, doing this, I'm assuming, and sent nudes he had of a known female rapper to other employees in his fashion brand. Because it's always good when the person in charge of educating students has the same level of emotional intelligence as the perverted guy in the 10th grade who would send nudes of girls in group chats, but never got really in any trouble with the administration. Actually, that might just be my high school. That might be that might not be everywhere. That might be a problem that they had to sort out and they chose not to. That might just be might be on them. And a few months later, this all came to a head when Kanye got into a big disagreement with Phillips over the state of a garden that Phillips was managing, yelling at him because the garden was bad. And I hate to break it to you, Kanye, but I thought gardening was supposed to be a very relaxing hobby. I think you might need to look into that. Kanye could not contain his rage, though, and told Phillips that he was, quote, fucking fired, and Phillips, in response, pleaded because Phillips's daughter was actually a member of Donda Academy, to which Kanye replied, "Fuck your daughter, I don't give a fuck about none of that." He again threatened to punch Phillips before something changed. Imitating the celebratory dance of Mario from the famous video game Super Mario Bros., the suit claims, Kanye jumped up with punching one fist in the air, while he said, "I'm gonna give you one more chance, another life." He was then fired the next day, but I don't really care about that. I want to get into the logistics of this Mario celebration, and I want to know, did he do the voice? Did he do like a Mamma Mia, you got another life? Did he do that? I would love for Kanye to clarify that. I think that's probably the biggest question I have after all this research. Phillips is seeking at least $35,000 for racial and workplace discrimination, and I hate to break it to Trevor, but you know you can ask for more, right? Kanye's worth $400 million. You can ask for a little more. You can ask for $70,000 if you're really going crazy, or like $5 million, you know? If you shoot for the moon, you'll end up among the stars. But the story of Donda Academy isn't over. No, a man like Kanye would never allow himself to admit defeat. Perhaps that's why his ex-wife, Pork and SNL's most swagged-up cast member, irritated him so much. Phillips, for his part, after he was fired in May of 2023, worked there until the end of the 2022 to 2023 school year. But like a phoenix being accused of racial discrimination rising from the ashes, Donda Academy was brought back for the 2023 to 2024 school year, and it is still, to my knowledge, currently operating. They moved to a new building in the San Fernando Valley and rebranded to the Donda Ray Academy, incorporating Kanye's father. And very little is known about this newest iteration of Donda Academy because the only online presence, as far as I could find, was a very cryptic Instagram page. They don't have a website. The only way you can get in contact with them is with that email listed on the Instagram page. One thing that we do know, just going off the Instagram, is that presumably they have upgraded. They're now plating their sushi on tables! Woo! Maybe things are finally turning around at Donda Ray Academy. I do not actually think that. There is nothing in the hours of research that I've done to suggest that is remotely the case. This is a complete disaster and a farce. And that, my friends, is the end of the story of Donda Academy. For now, the school is currently kind of operating. There could always be another lawsuit to reveal even more details that are funny and disturbing and a little bit of both, but for now, that is the end of our tale. How the school goes now is anyone's guess. Maybe Kanye decides to read Night by Elie Wiesel and changes his mind and renounces anti-Semitism after his insincere apology in the Hebrew language, and then maybe he will hire some competent administrators and try to run an actual school. Or, and this is the most likely scenario, the school operates and then closes in the next few years because a school run by a celebrity is a terrible idea. But that's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I did a lot of research on it, spent a lot of time writing the script. I know it's a long one, but I really hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. It really helps me out. And if you enjoy my content, please subscribe. New video, roughly 1 to 2 new videos every week. Appreciate you so much. Leave a comment. What do you think about this crazy story? I know there was a lot there, and reading this and researching this was fun, but also it was like making me scratch my head and honestly feel bad for the kids. Hope you enjoyed. As always, my name is Patrick, but my friends call me Pat. See you for the next one.